My best friend gave birth to my husband's baby. The call came at 2:17 a.m. I remember the exact time because I stared at my phone for almost a full minute before answering. Something inside me hesitated. Unknown numbers at that hour don't bring good news. They bring emergencies or endings. When I finally pressed accept, a calm female voice spoke. "Is this Mrs. Carter?" "Yes." "This is St. Mary's Hospital. Your husband is here. You're listed as his emergency contact." My heart dropped into my stomach. "Is he okay?" I asked immediately. There was a pause, not long, but long enough. "He's fine, Ma'am. He's here for a delivery." For a moment, my brain refused to process the word delivery, as in childbirth, as in someone having a baby. "My husband?" I asked, slowly. "Yes, he's currently in the maternity wing." The line went quiet, and in that silence something inside me shifted, because my best friend Olivia was 9 months pregnant. And suddenly the world rearranged itself in a way I wasn't prepared for. Olivia and I had been inseparable since we were 19, college roommates, bridesmaids at each other's weddings. She was there the day I married Daniel. She cried harder than anyone when I walked down the aisle. When she told me she was pregnant 6 months ago, she cried in my kitchen. "The father doesn't want to be involved," she whispered. I hugged her and said all the right things. "He doesn't deserve you. You'll be an amazing mother. You don't need him." I hated a man I had never met. I defended her. I supported her. I went to appointments with her. I didn't know I was supporting my husband's child. When I arrived at the hospital, the maternity floor was quiet, except for distant crying and the soft hum of fluorescent lights. Daniel was standing outside a delivery room, pacing. When he saw me, he froze, not relieved, not surprised, afraid. "What are you doing here?" he asked. I ignored the question. "Why are you here?" I asked back. Before he could answer, a nurse stepped out of the room. "Dad, you can come in now." "Dad." The word didn't echo. It exploded. I turned slowly toward Daniel. He didn't correct her. He didn't say, "You're mistaken." He just looked at me with something that wasn't guilt yet. It was calculation. And then he walked inside. I followed him. The delivery room smelled sterile and heavy. Olivia was lying in the hospital bed, hair damp, face pale, eyes swollen from crying. In her arms was a newborn baby boy wrapped in a blue blanket. Daniel walked to her side like he belonged there. He kissed her forehead. "You did amazing," he whispered. He had said those exact words to me when I finished my first marathon. He had said those words to me when I signed the mortgage papers for our house. Now he was saying them to her. Olivia looked up and saw me. And in that moment, everything changed. Her eyes filled with panic, not confusion, not shock, guilt. The kind of guilt that comes from being caught, not misunderstood, caught. I stepped closer to the bed. The baby stirred in her arms. He had dark hair, Daniel's dark hair. You don't want to notice things like that, but you do, because your brain searches for denial and finds confirmation instead. How long? I asked, quietly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Olivia started crying. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. That sentence, that stupid sentence, nothing about pregnancy just happens quietly for 6 months. Nothing about hiding ultrasounds and doctor visits is accidental. Daniel finally spoke. 6 months. 6 months. 6 months of dinners. 6 months of shared holidays. 6 months of me holding her hand during appointments. 6 months of lies. The worst part wasn't the baby. It wasn't even the affair. It was realizing they had built a parallel life right in front of me, inside my house, at my kitchen table, using my trust as cover. And I had never seen it. Or maybe I had, and I chose not to look. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. Shock is quiet. It numbs you. "I'll let you have your moment," I said calmly, and I walked out, because sometimes leaving quietly is louder than staying. The affair that lived inside my marriage. I didn't go home immediately after leaving the hospital. I sat in my car in the parking lot for almost 40 minutes. The engine was off, the world was quiet, and my life had just split into before and after. I replayed every memory from the past year like evidence in a trial. The late meetings, the guarded phone, the way Daniel started showering the moment he got home. And Olivia, her silence about the father, her vague answers, her tears. The details were always there. I just didn't arrange them correctly. The affair, Daniel later admitted, began during a company retreat 6 months earlier. I was supposed to go with him, but I had a work deadline and couldn't attend. Olivia went instead, as my guest. That part still feels unreal. I had introduced them. I had trusted them. I had believed proximity meant safety. They drank that night. They talked about old memories, about me. That's what he told me. It was just emotional at first, he said, later. Emotional. As if that made it smaller, as if emotional betrayal doesn't cut deeper than physical. After the retreat, they started texting, at first about innocent things. "Did you get home safe? That presentation was terrible." She looked stressed. Me. I was the topic of their bonding. They analyzed my moods, my habits, my frustrations. Intimacy grows when two people share secrets, especially when the secret is a third person. The first time they slept together was in my house. I found that out later. On a night, I had flown out to visit my mother. Daniel told me he missed me. Olivia texted me that she felt lonely. Neither mentioned they were in the same room. That detail stayed with me longer than anything else, not the hotel, not some distant city, my house, my bed, my absence. When Olivia found out she was pregnant, she panicked. Daniel panicked more. They met at a cafe to discuss options. Abortion was mentioned. Silence was chosen. "Maybe it won't be obvious," he told her. Maybe. That word is the foundation of bad decisions. He promised financial support, promised to handle it, promised he would protect her. He never promised to tell me. That was never on the table. During those 6 months, I became Olivia's support system. I drove her to appointments when she said she was too anxious to go alone. Daniel offered to help sometimes. I thought he was being kind. He was attending ultrasounds for his own child, standing beside her, listening to heartbeats, watching growth, then coming home to me, kissing me, asking about my day. The psychological split required for that kind of deception is something I still struggle to understand. How do you hold two realities in your head at once? How do you look at your wife and not see the betrayal written across your face? Olivia's baby shower was held in my backyard. That detail feels like a joke now. I organized it. I invited friends. I bought decorations. Daniel set up the grill. They stood beside each other, smiling for photos. I thought I was surrounded by love. I was surrounded by performance. The father remained anonymous. That was the story. He doesn't want involvement, Olivia would say. Daniel would nod sympathetically. I would curse a man who was sitting at my dinner table. Looking back, I remember one moment clearly. Olivia rested her hand on her stomach and said, "He kicked." Daniel instinctively placed his hand there, then quickly pulled it back. I thought nothing of it. Now I know that was muscle memory, a father's instinct. The night before she went into labor, Olivia called me. "I'm scared," she whispered. "You're going to be fine," I said. "I don't know if I can do this alone." "You're not alone," I told her. And that sentence still haunts me, because she wasn't alone. She had my husband. At the hospital, when I asked, "How long?" and Daniel said, 6 months, he wasn't just admitting to an affair. He was admitting to a sustained lie. 6 months of coordination, 6 months of deleted messages, 6 months of careful scheduling. That kind of betrayal isn't impulsive. It's managed. When Daniel came home 2 days later, he tried to control the narrative. "It wasn't about replacing you," he said. "It wasn't planned. It just escalated. Escalated. Like a business deal, like a project, like something neutral." "Did you ever plan to tell me?" I asked. Silence. That was my answer. Olivia sent a long message, paragraphs about confusion, about feelings, about loneliness. Not once did she say, "I chose to betray you." Instead, it was, "It happened." Betrayal doesn't happen. It's built, step by step, decision by decision. The hardest realization wasn't that they slept together. It was that they trusted each other more than they feared losing me. They calculated risk and decided I was the safer loss. When I finally went home after leaving the hospital, I stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where Olivia cried about being abandoned. The same kitchen where Daniel kissed me goodbye every morning. Everything looked normal. That's what betrayal does. It hides inside normality. And I realized something that night. The baby wasn't the beginning of my marriage ending. The secrecy was, and secrecy that deep doesn't disappear with exposure. It reshapes everything. When secrets stop being private. The first crack wasn't emotional, it was digital. 2 days after the birth, Olivia's mother posted a photo on Facebook. Welcome to the world, sweet baby boy. So proud of my daughter. In the corner of the picture, barely visible, was Daniel's hand, wedding ring clearly showing. People notice details when they're bored, and social media is full of bored people. Within minutes, messages started coming in. Is that Daniel? Why is your husband at Olivia's delivery? Wait, what? I didn't respond, because denial would have required energy, and I was already exhausted. Daniel underestimated something important. You can hide an affair. You can hide a pregnancy, but you cannot hide a newborn for long. Birth certificates, hospital bracelets, witnesses, reality leaves records. When he came home that second night, the house felt like a courtroom. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I asked questions. Did you ever plan to leave me? No. Did you ever plan to tell me? Silence. Were you going to let me find out when he was 5, 10 at graduation? He ran his hands through his hair. I didn't know what to do. That answer made something in me harden, because confusion explains hesitation. It doesn't explain 6 months of calculated silence. The next explosion came from family. My mother called first. I saw the picture. Her voice wasn't angry, it was protective. Is it true? Yes. There's something surreal about confirming your own betrayal out loud. Daniel's parents called next. His mother cried, not because of me, because of embarrassment. Why didn't he tell us? She kept asking. Because secrets don't survive daylight. Olivia finally called me directly. Her voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard it. I never wanted to hurt you. That sentence is always said after the damage is done. You didn't trip and fall into this, I said quietly. It wasn't supposed to continue, but it did. Silence. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. They weren't remorseful because they betrayed me. They were remorseful because they got exposed. There's a difference. The baby's father question couldn't stay hidden anymore. People talk. Friends asked carefully at first, then directly. Is it Daniel's? I stopped protecting him. Yes. Once the truth is spoken openly, it loses some of its power. It becomes fact instead of fear. Daniel tried to salvage something. We can fix this, he said. How? I asked. I'll be involved with the baby, but I want to stay married. The absurdity of that statement almost made me laugh. You want 2 lives, I said calmly. No, you already have 2 lives. That was the moment he understood. The version of me that trusted blindly was gone. What hurt the most wasn't the affair. It wasn't even the child. It was the coordination, the way they had synchronized lies. Doctor appointments scheduled when I had meetings, texts deleted, stories aligned. That level of cooperation requires intention, and intention changes everything. Friends began choosing sides. Some distanced themselves from Olivia. Some avoided me entirely. People are uncomfortable around betrayal. It reminds them that safety is fragile. One mutual friend said something that stuck with me. I just can't believe she did that to you. She. As if Daniel had been hypnotized. No one wanted to believe he was equally responsible. That angered me more than I expected, because betrayal isn't a one-person act. It's collaboration. The hardest moment came when I visited Olivia one final time. Not to yell, not to argue, to close something. She was holding the baby. Daniel wasn't there. "I loved him," she said. "Did you?" I asked. "Or did you love being chosen?" Her eyes filled with tears, because sometimes the truth doesn't shout. It whispers. She had spent years being second to me, in school, in attention, in success. This time she won something, except what she won was a man capable of betrayal. And that's not a prize. When I left her apartment that day, I felt strangely calm, not healed, but clear. The secret life they built had collapsed. Now all that remained was consequence. And consequence is heavier than secrecy. Daniel moved out 2 weeks later, not dramatically, not violently, quietly, suitcase in hand, avoiding eye contact. "I never meant for this to happen," he said one last time. "But you maintained it," I replied. And that was the final truth between us. The baby existed. The affair existed. The lies existed. But something else existed now, too. Exposure. And exposure changes power. They no longer controlled the narrative. I did what they built from the ruins. Divorce didn't begin with shouting. It began with paperwork, cold envelopes, legal language, dates and signatures. There's something almost cruel about how quiet divorce feels after something so loud. Daniel didn't fight much. He couldn't. Paternity had already been confirmed. The baby existed. The photos existed. The timeline existed. There was no version of events that made him look innocent. During mediation, he tried to sound reasonable. "I want to handle this respectfully," he said. Respect. That word felt hollow. Respect would have been honesty. Respect would have been confession. Respect would have been telling me before a nurse did. Instead, I learned about his child under fluorescent hospital lights. Respect doesn't arrive after exposure. Financially, the process was straightforward. Emotionally, it was not. Every document felt like proof that something permanent had shattered. 10 years of marriage reduced to asset, division, and settlement agreements. The house, the accounts, the shared investments. We divided them calmly, almost professionally. It's amazing how composed people can be when love is already gone. Daniel moved into Olivia's apartment officially 2 months after the birth. People whispered about how at least they made it right. Made it right. That phrase bothered me. Nothing about betrayal becomes right simply because it becomes public. Secrecy is not the only problem. Character is. Reality hit them quickly. Newborns don't care about romance. They cry at 3 a.m. They need feeding schedules. They require patience. The intensity that once fueled their affair had to compete with exhaustion. Affairs thrive in stolen time. Parenthood demands full time. I heard through mutual friends that they argued frequently, not about me, about sleep, money, stress. Because once the secrecy ended, so did the fantasy. I saw them once, unexpectedly. 6 months after, everything. At a grocery store, the baby was in the cart, crying loudly. Daniel looked thinner, tired, older. Olivia avoided my eyes, not because she hated me, because she knew. The life they built started with destruction, and destruction leaves marks. Daniel tried to speak. I never stopped caring about you. I didn't respond immediately because caring isn't the same as choosing, and he had chosen repeatedly. 6 months of choices, doctor visits, messages, silence. Caring doesn't erase decisions. The baby looked at me briefly. Children are innocent in adult mistakes. I felt no anger toward him, only sadness, because one day he would learn how he entered the world, not through celebration, but through fracture. Friends eventually stopped asking questions. Time softens curiosity, but it doesn't erase memory. Olivia lost more friendships than she expected. People smiled politely, but distance remained. Trust, once broken publicly, doesn't repair easily. Daniel's reputation shifted too. Men who betray once are watched carefully, especially by those who witnessed it. As for me, healing wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a single moment of empowerment. It was gradual, rearranging furniture, deleting old photos, sitting alone in a quiet house. The silence felt different now, not empty, peaceful. For the first time in months, I wasn't wondering what was hidden. There was no parallel life happening behind my back. There was only truth. And truth, even painful truth, is stable. I realized something important in that stillness. The affair didn't destroy my marriage. The secrecy did. The coordination did. The willingness to live two lives did. The baby was simply the proof. People sometimes ask if I regret trusting Olivia. Trust isn't a mistake. Her betrayal was, and that distinction matters, because I refuse to let their decisions redefine my character. 1 year later, I ran into Daniel again at a school event for a mutual friend's child. He looked at me differently, not with longing, with recognition, as if he finally understood the cost. I didn't think it would go this far, he said quietly, but betrayal always goes further than expected, because it's not just one action, it's sustained dishonesty. Olivia and Daniel stayed together, at least publicly, but their relationship would always carry an origin story built on deception. And origin stories matter, because when conflict comes, and it always does, people return to the foundation, and their foundation was fracture. I didn't lose everything. I lost a husband, I lost a best friend, but I didn't lose myself. And in the end, that's the only thing that survives betrayal. Sometimes I still hear that nurse's voice in my memory. Dad, you can come in. Those 5 words changed my life, but they also freed me. Because secrets can only control you while they're hidden. Once exposed, they lose power, and so do the people who depended on them.